Second down, 20. 5:03 to go. Someone has run on the field. Some guy with a brawl. And now he's not being chased. He's running down the middle of the 40. Arms in the air in a victory salute. He's pulling down his pants. Put up your pants, my man. Pull up those pants. He's being chased to the 30. He breaks a tackle from a security guard. The 20, down the middle, the 10, the 5. He slides at the 1, and they converge on him at the goal line. Pull up your pants, take off the bra, and be a man. And the players with hands on hips at the other end of the field are looking at him and shaking their head and saying, why, oh, why is this taking place in a Super Bowl?
And that is how the Super Bowl essentially ended yesterday. Welcome into Crunch Time. I am Wags alongside Joe Hamilton. It's a cold, disgusting, kind of dreary day here in St. Louis. Snow possibly in the area as well. And it's all a perfect combination for you to really just sit back and really all you have to do is listen to us talk about sports. That's the best combination for today, especially the day after the Super Bowl. Everybody's probably still a little, I wouldn't say inebriated or hungover or anything. I think maybe just a little disappointed, especially here in the St. Louis, Kansas City area. But Joe, man, how are you doing? Are you coherent? Are you awake? Are you energized after yesterday? Or are you like me where I'm just like dragging ridiculous today?
I'm dragging ridiculous today, and it has to do with, having fun yesterday. It had to do with, of course, having a few adult beverages, a few Jell-O shots, a few things this and there. But you know what? I'm fine. I thought I'd have more of a headache, and I don't, so I'm fine with that. Wish it was a better game in terms of intrigue during the game. I mean, it had a lot of intrigue going into it, and it never really lived up to its potential. So that's kind of what I take away.
I mean, I think there was plenty of intrigue throughout the game. It wasn't as, I think it was close for the most part. The Tampa Bay ended up pulling away a little bit in the second half there, but for the most part, that game was very intriguing. It was more along the lines of when's the line play going to improve for the Chiefs? What's the deal with all the flags? How's Patrick Mahomes look with his toe? I think I threw a stat out to you earlier today about the fact that Patrick Mahomes ran for almost 500 yards from the Tampa Bay defense before his passes or getting sacked. He ran for almost 500 yards. That didn't even count. That right there should be intriguing to you because that was the story of the game. I mean, last night, so many people were out there saying, oh, this game is rigged. It's being called in the favor of Tom Brady. But seriously, that stat alone, 500 yards rushing just from being chased by the defense before his passes or getting sacked, that right there is the most telling stat of that game and why Tampa Bay won that game and Kansas City lost. And you heard it in the post-game conferences as well that everybody, Mahomes, Hill, Reed, they all said they played a bad game and they gave credit to the Tampa Bay defense. That was the story of the game. Yes, there were penalties that were called that people were upset about. Tom Brady did what he did, found Gronk for a couple of touchdowns. But overall, I think the game had a lot of intrigue throughout the entire process because there were questions that were asked before the game that seemingly were answered throughout the game. And then other things popped up during the game that intrigued me even more.
Yeah. Was it Tampa Bay winning this game or was it Kansas City losing this game?
Tampa Bay winning it.
But the second option doesn't even enter into your mind because Kansas City did have penalties upon penalties. Yes, they were called for a lot of penalties, but some of those were their fault, their own fault. So
all of the penalties were their
fault. Of course. Yeah, you know what I mean, Wags. I mean, some were questionable is what I'm saying. I think Kansas City kind of beat themselves in the same sense.
Well, I think more than anything, and we talked about this in our group chat, that halftime adjustments were something that I thought were going to be key in this game. And it seemed like the Chiefs didn't necessarily make those halftime adjustments like we thought they were going to. They were definitely much better in the second half. They moved the ball a lot better. Yes, that's a little bit of Tampa Bay kind of backing off in some instances to not get deep beaten deep. But they did look better in the second half, but there really weren't a whole lot of changes to the offense. Mahomes was still running for his life. They didn't adjust to protect Patrick in the second half of that game because you saw in the first half they were getting beat clean off the line. It was bad. He was running for his life, and with that toe injury, you could see he was hobbled and he wasn't moving as well as he normally did. So you would have thought maybe in the second half they'd pull somebody back down, one of their secondary tight ends, and give them an extra blocker to really prevent Mahomes from having to move and get outside the pocket. But you also have to give credit to Tampa Bay's secondary as well, because they locked down on Kelce and Tyreek Hill, more so Hill than Kelce. Kelce got his yardage in that second half. A lot of it was kind of garbage time, but for the most part, the secondary didn't give Patrick Mahomes much to look at. And then when you're under pressure like you are, that also doesn't help in any way, shape, or form. Saying that, some of the throws that Patrick Mahomes made and almost connected on, I'm still speechless that he was able to make those throws, and he still continues to amaze me every time he goes out there, hurt or not. I think I may have lost Joe here. So we'll keep going. We'll try to get him back on to talk a little bit more about the Super Bowl. Tom Brady, 7th Super Bowl ring. His first one was back in 2001, unfortunately, against the Rams, looking for their 2nd Super Bowl. And now his 7th against the Kansas City Chiefs, looking for their 2nd Super Bowl. A little bit of symmetry there as well. If you guys are out there listening, have any comments or questions that you want to pop out there to chime in, most certainly do. We'll get those on there. Leicester, Tampa Bay just outplayed the Chiefs. That's really what it seemed to be, was that they just outplayed Kansas City, and they did not have any answers when it came to Kansas City. I think I might be getting Joe back here. Joe, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right. So I don't know how much of my statement that you heard about Patrick Mahomes, the insane throws that he was still making. I'm still just impressed by what he's able to do.
Yeah, look, Pat Mahomes, it's hard to be protected. Wags, I don't know if you covered this when I was out, but it's hard to be get coverage from your offensive line when he had a couple key guys from that offensive line missing in this game. If those guys were not missing from the offensive line, I think this is a different game.
Yeah, no question, because, Eric Fisher and a couple of those guys that were starters for the entire year being out doesn't help at all. But I was saying there at the halftime adjustments, I was shocked that they didn't pull, one of those secondary tight ends or somebody else in there to give extra protection to Patrick when they knew he was running around for his life in the first half. That was the thing I think that shocked me the most, is they didn't adjust the line play. They really kind of adjusted some of the wide receiver routes and how they use CEH, but they didn't really address that line play.
Yeah,
I was expecting more potentially like screens and stuff like that. If you know that the defensive line is able to get in there, why are you not running more screens? And that's just something that they didn't do and didn't really adjust to in the second half.
Yeah, and not to mention your key targets for the Kansas City Chiefs were only targeted 2 times. I mean, 2 or 3 times that whole game. So, again,
I'm pretty sure Kelce was targeted more than that.
Well, Kelce. I mean, I'm talking Tyreek Hill. I saw that stat. I'm like, that's crazy.
Well, that's the Tampa Bay secondary locking down on the 2 biggest targets. Like I said, they both were kind of stymied in the first half. They Kelce kind of broke out a little bit more in the second half, but they did a great job of basically blanketing those 2 with 2 deep coverage, essentially, not allowing them to have any opportunities to get open. And the fact that you're adding pressure on Mahomes, it's not like Mahomes was able to drop back, sit back and go, okay, Tyreek is double covered. Okay, Kelce is double covered. Okay, let's go over here to Hardman or Pringle or dump it off to Clyde Edwards-Helaire. It wasn't like he was able to do that. He literally had to look at his first read and make a decision on if he was going to throw that ball or not. And they just had him under pressure all game, and it does not make it easy to run an offense.
Yeah, it doesn't. And there was a play early in that game. Actually, there was a stoppage early in that game. If you got that stop at the 1 yard line, and I know you hate this term, Wags, momentum. I thought things were going to shift clearly to Kansas City because you stop a team at the 1 yard line, that usually deflates a team. But the pro that Tom Brady is, that didn't happen for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That's for sure. Kudos to him for not, letting his team go down, because in that situation, it's easy to go on a down after that.
So would you say that in that instance, it was proven factual that momentum is not a thing?
No, I wouldn't say that, because in certain aspects, momentum shows its head. Momentum is there. It just didn't show there.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
momentum's only an occasional thing that happens, not a guarantee that happens.
Yeah, it's a 90%. It's not a guarantee, so 90%. Momentum is huge in sports, Wags. I can argue about this all day.
So can I. I don't believe it is in any way, shape, or form. So, but once again, that's an argument that we could literally have for days. You look at it, and after that stop on the 1 yard line, there was a eerily reminiscent shot of Tom Brady, and somebody posted on Twitter that that's the look that, as a opposing defense, you do not want to see, and that's Tom Brady on the bench, hands on his knees, looking down because he is pissed off, and he's going to do everything he can to go out there. That's the look that you do not want to see in Tom Brady, and that's exactly what you saw after that stop. And with the defense doing what it did, and then after that, getting the shank punt from the Kansas City Chiefs punter, who, to be perfectly honest, he hasn't had a whole lot of opportunities to punt this year. And then to come in the Super Bowl in the shadow of your own end zone and try and pin the Buccaneers deep after that, botched drive after the stop. I mean, I don't blame him in a sense for shanking it, but come on, man, you cannot do that after basically dropping the punt before that and kicking it deep, the flag, and then getting a clean snap and shanking it. That's just something you can't do, and Tampa Bay took advantage.
And also something else you can't do while you have that subject open is you can't taunt Tom Brady. You can't taunt Tom Brady, and that's what Tyrann Mathieu did. And yeah, that didn't work out too well, did it?
Well, I mean, Mathieu was the one who got flagged, but honestly, Tom Brady was the one who came over and started it.
I'm actually shocked because I never thought Tom Brady was the guy to start shit. You know
really?
what I mean? Yeah.
Really?
I never saw Tom Brady as the guy. Not often, no. At least what I've seen.
You said not often.
Not never, but
he's totally the guy that is intense and will start stuff. How many times have you seen him in the face of another player? I mean, he's not gonna, maybe not so much that he starts stuff, but he's not gonna back down from confrontation. He's always yelling at somebody.
He's always yelling at somebody, and you can't read into that if you're Kansas City, and you did, and it costed you. I don't know if that instance costed you dearly, but it did cost you at the time. Kansas City just wasn't disciplined enough. And that's another issue. There was an interception that was called back because of a holding play, I believe. Yes, it was a hold. And if that interception ended up happening without a penalty, game changes right there. So, like we've said before, Kansas City killed themselves. So,
I think the biggest thing is that we knew that Kansas City was a team that held a lot. I mean, Scott mentioned it last night in the group chat. This team is known to be a team that holds. So once you start getting, the refs seeing it early on, which they did, then they were looking for it the entire time. And at that point, you need to find some way to adjust and play the game without being looked, because that was the whole thing. They caught the holding early and they said, we're going to call it all the way throughout the game. And, once more, I mean, some of those do you call? They happen throughout the entire game on both sides. That's where things get a little tricky, and you really wish for some consistency. But they saw it on the Chiefs early on. They decided, hey, we're going to call this throughout the game, and that's what happened. And there was one play, the pass interference play, where the guy got tripped up. To me, looked like incidental contact. I was a little like, okay, that one probably could have been let go. It did extend a drive for Tampa Bay, but for the most part, everything else were legitimate calls, whether you agreed with them or not. As far as they happen all the time, they were still legitimate calls. And like you said, to your point, yeah, the Chiefs basically shot themselves in the foot because they continuously got caught holding. And a lot of that was because of the fact that the offensive line was so new in a sense of playing.
Yep. Kansas City will be back. They will be back because I don't see, besides Buffalo, and I'm going to keep that Super Bowl pick for next year. I'm going to wait till the season preview show we do, but I'm keeping that for next year because Josh Allen knows how to win now. Josh Allen, after losing to the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC Championship game, they're going to be back next year, and that's the biggest threat to the Kansas City Chiefs.
Really? Because I think Cleveland's also a threat to the Kansas City Chiefs. I think Pittsburgh is a threat to the Kansas City Chiefs. I think Baltimore is a threat to the Kansas City Chiefs.
I wouldn't put Baltimore in there. I think Baltimore needs to make a change of quarterback. I do, because I don't think Lamar Jackson can win a big. Yeah, I said it. Lamar Jackson needs to make a decision. Is he a quarterback or is he a running back? Or
he's
a wide receiver.
Quarterback. No, he's made that perfectly clear that he's a quarterback. And how many times have we talked about this on the show? He's not out. He never goes out there looking to run the ball. He's always out there looking to pass the ball. And that's the thing. We got to get out of that habit of looking at a quarterback that has legs and go, well, is he a quarterback or is he a running back? No, Lamar Jackson is a quarterback. He won the MVP 2 years ago. Okay. He just, I think we just need to get that out of our heads. Do you consider Patrick Mahomes a running quarterback?
No.
Are you questioning Patrick Mahomes on if he wants to be a quarterback or a running back?
No.
Are you questioning Josh Allen on if he wants to be a quarterback or a running back?
Nope.
So why are we continuously asking that of Lamar Jackson?
Because Lamar Jackson seems to run more than he throws. That's why. You can look that up, but he seems to run more than he throws.
I doubt that in any way, shape, and form. I mean, just looking up his statistics right now. Let's see. This year, rushing. That's the season. That's the game by game. So this year he threw for 2,757 yards. And let's see if it says anything about rushing. Here we go. Rushing. He ran for 1,005 yards. Okay, let's look up Patrick Mahomes. See where he's at in that ranking. I'm not sitting there saying he ran more than Lamar Jackson did, but it's possible. It's pretty close. So this year he threw for 4,740 yards, so a 4,700 yard passing season. Rushing and receiving, he ran for 308 yards. So yeah, he's not rushing as much, but I look at it and I don't sit there and say that Lamar Jackson is always looking to rush. That's the whole thing. The opportunity presents itself. Mahomes has so many weapons that he's able to go through his progressions and throw to guys. In Baltimore, what does Lamar Jackson have as far as receiving is concerned?
Hollywood Brown, and that's it.
So it's not that he's choosing to be a running back. It's more so that he's got one option essentially. And after that, he's got to make a decision on throwing the ball out of bounds or getting some yardage. So I think it's more so that he's being forced into running more than it is about him choosing to be a running back. Everything that you've heard from Lamar Jackson is that he focuses on being a quarterback. He focuses in on his passing. He's not a guy that is going to want to be a running back. He is a quarterback, and we just need to get out of the habit of asking that question, because we don't ask it of Patrick Mahomes. We don't ask it of Josh Allen. Do we ask that about Deshaun Watson? I don't think we do either. So that's the thing we got to get out of the habit of doing.
But let me ask you, Wags, is the pocket passer no more in the NFL? The pure pocket passer? I mean, you still see him, but I'm talking about the new age quarterbacks, the guys coming into the league, like a Deshaun Watson, like a Josh Allen, like a Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes. Are we seeing a different breed in quarterback?
we're seeing a different breed in quarterback, yes, but I think you can still label guys like Deshaun Watson and Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes as pocket passers. Steve Young is a guy that back in the 90s, same kind of mold as a Deshaun Watson or a Josh Allen, where he's a quarterback that had the ability to move outside of the pocket.
Mm-hmm.
So to say that it's a new breed, it's more prevalent now because the quarterback position has changed a little bit. But for the most part, you've seen this. I mean, Randall Cunningham is another guy that you look at and you go, okay, he was a good pocket passer, but he had the ability to scramble, get outside the pocket, and make some yardage.
Yeah.
It's not something that's brand new, but you are seeing you are seeing a change in the quarterback, but it's not getting away from the quarterback to become a running back. It's more so becoming a quarterback that has multiple options.
Right. That has
when the pocket breaks down.
Mm-hmm. Like a quarterback who has the ability to run and is not just limited to the pocket. That's, I always watched quarterbacks growing up, and all I didn't see very many, at least when I was a kid, very many running quarterbacks, never really saw that. So it was always an interesting question.
I mean, it is. It's just what you have to look at what they have around them as far as the team's concerned. Do they have the ability to have a couple of wide receivers or a tight end that get open that allow them to pass? You look at Arizona. Kyler Murray was one of the guys that was tops in rushing. He had 819 rushing yards this year on 133 attempts. Lamar Jackson had his 1,000 yards on 159 attempts. So it's more so about they're getting chunks. Derrick Henry led the league in rushing, 2,027 yards. He had almost 380 attempts to get to that. So he had just over 1,000 yards more than Lamar Jackson, but he rushed for almost double the amount of attempts that Lamar Jackson did. So you also have to look at that as well. It's not like Lamar's out there running every play. Look at the runs that Lamar Jackson made this year. They were huge chunk runs, and I think that's what makes up the bulk of it. And yes, some of those were design plays for him to run, but a majority of them are breakdown in the pocket, not having a guy to throw to, and making the best of what the situation allows you to do. So once again, to label these quarterbacks as, oh, they're a running back that can throw occasionally, I think we still need to just get away from that labeling system and say, look, these guys are quarterbacks that have that ability to make and take advantage of breakdowns in defensive coverage.
Yep. Totally agree.
Do you? You?
Yeah, I do. All right.
I'm not so sure. So once again, going back, Tom Brady, he's got his 7th Super Bowl ring. This is the first one that he was able to win without Bill Belichick. And it really proves that he can do this without the Bill Belichick system. I'd like to go ahead and get out your thoughts on that.
How many times have I said that, Wags? And you guys kind of downplayed it. Brady needed to win this Super Bowl because he did. He needed to win this Super Bowl to make sure he could do it without Belichick. Now, he already passed a big hurdle getting to the Super Bowl without Belichick. So I feel like this even more cements his legacy as a legend because he could do it with other teams, not just one coach. So I've been preaching that all year. You guys have downplayed it, but I'm going to continue preaching it, and it happened. So go ahead.
See, this is the thing, though. I don't think he needed to win. He didn't need to win the Super Bowl at all. He was still going to go in as one of the greatest, if not the greatest quarterback of all time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a matter of he needed to win this Super Bowl. I get your